Why do white people resent Black excellence?
Because we are so scared of equality. We're so scared that Black and brown folks might become the majority one day.
Any oppression comes from a fear of not being good enough, a fear of competition. And when you understand that the blueprint is literally a Black woman, a Black man, you can understand why white people have felt the need to conquer people of color's land, because Black people are closer to the DNA makeup of the original people to be here on Earth than white people are.
Black excellence seems like a personal affront to them, right? It really bothers them when Black people succeed.
It's because it exposes where they are faltering within themselves.
They can't fathom a reality where you advance in life, where you get a position, where you move up at all without stealing something or stepping on somebody or exploiting somebody. They can't, in their brain, they don't have any recall.
And when you don't walk by a certain script of what they feel is acceptable as far as being a Black person in this country, then they start doing things like bashing what is actually happening to make you feel diminished within yourself.
We're so obsessed with the idea of not having equality in America for Black, brown, and indigenous people.
But y'all love us, y'all love our music, and if y'all talking about DEI, then give some of our stuff back, like our R&B. Stop playing with us. Stop singing like us. Stop dancing like us. Give us our shit back. No, I'm just kidding.
No matter what, people try to bring us down in any type of way, and we come back, and that's why a lot of people don't like us, because no matter what, you can't tear us down for long. You may get us down for a little bit, but we don't stay there.
If you follow American news closely, you have likely noticed something troubling. Some people seem genuinely uncomfortable discussing Black Americans' achievement. The level of excellence that many Black Americans have attained does not simply align with expectations of certain people. They hold a fixed belief about the ceiling of Black success, and when they see a Black American working relentlessly to reach the highest levels, they struggle to process it as real, yet the evidence is everywhere. We are witnessing an unprecedented showcase of Black excellence. More Black Americans in senior positions, more representing the nation internationally, more Black Americans breaking through barriers that were supposedly immovable. For some people, this reality is difficult to accept. In this video, we will examine first-hand accounts from people grappling this shift. Afterward, I'll give you my own constructive commentaries. Make sure you watch the video from the beginning to the end. And if you are finding it interesting, click on the like button. This video is for educational purpose.
Nothing pisses racist white folks off more than Black success. Baby, you can set your watch by it. The moment a Black person shines, here they come. And baby, they be big mad. Look around. Shador Sanders, drag. Jasmine Crockett, attack. Stacey Abrams, undermine. Barack and Michelle Obama, baby, they been long gone and they still catching hate over being overqualified. Meanwhile, Donnie and them ran up in the White House with resumes of a used car salesman. Baby, nepotism at its best. Underqualified ain't even the word. But when it's us, baby, they gonna twist that story, twist that narrative, and tie themselves in knots trying to convince the world that we don't belong. And why though? Because deep down inside, they know, baby, they could never. We've done more with less. We thrive in a system that is built for our demise. And baby, they could never. That's why their brain short circuits with rage. That's why their comments overflow with vitriol. And honestly, y'all, I love that for us. I do. Because every time that rage gets out of hand, is proof that our excellence is undeniable.
We maintain community. When you are at work and you feel like you're being attacked for no good reason, think about what your outputs are. In the 48 law of power, you never outshine the master. You outshining them people, and that's why they mad. What I'm supposed to do, water myself down for them to feel comfortable? I think the freak not. Black excellence is a thorn in the side of white mediocrity. White imperialistic masculinist syndrome. Shout out to Janelle Hobson for coining that. And shout out to my godmother for teaching us that.
When Black people succeed. The 13th Amendment emancipated enslaved Black Americans in 1865, and then the Jim Crow laws kind of wrapped up with the passing of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. So if we do the math, that's about 61 years in which Black Americans were able to strive for success in any sort of meaningful way without like the constraints of the law pulling them down. 61 years. If we compare that to white Americans who besieged a land already owned and occupied by indigenous Americans, we'll put that around 1620 when, you know, the Mayflower came here, then that gives them about 425 years to establish success in this country. 425 versus 61. If we compare those two fundamentally very different time spans, like, how much did white Americans actually do in all of that time? If we were to compare even the poorest and most underprivileged of white America to Black America generally, it is clear that white Americans are born way past the start line, right? By that I mean, by like nature of being white in American society, you do benefit from all sorts of privileges. And like, to be frank, you're not exhausted by the horrible experience of facing racism on a daily basis, right? You do have a ton of privileges. So I imagine existing in this bubble of privilege that you like totally deny, the existence of Black people for whom success is like second nature, when it comes so easily and so readily, even though you've only had 61 years to achieve it, I imagine that's exhausting and frustrating. I imagine it makes people feel super, super inferior and hurts certain people's tiny, tiny little egos. And what do they blame that deep, deep psychic pain on? Well, of course, DEI and critical race theory and affirmative action. So I guess the question is, what might help those white Americans who just so strongly detest Black excellence? Like, what will help you? And for that, I would suggest like a lot of therapy, like a ton of therapy. And I would also just suggest that we open the schools, right? We teach people history.
They can't stand to see people getting their value from within. Like, you know how many white people have asked why are like, they've literally, I've seen it in the comments, I've seen it in videos of white people saying, Black people, like, how do you get your joy? Like, how are you so happy? Like, why, like we know that we've oppressed you for all this time. How do you still stand up and smile and dance? Like, they want us, and that's not to say that they want us to, well, some of them certainly want us to like not be happy, but even the ones who do not actively try to make sure we're not happy, they feel like we should be unhappy, and so they ask, why are you so happy? And that's because they themselves have been trained and brought up to think that their happiness comes from external validation. Y'all, that is what it is, because white culture, white American culture is very consumerist. It is very, you get your value from having the biggest house. You get your value from having the hottest husband and the prettiest woman. You get your value from having the most, the highest paying job. You get your value from having the highest net worth. That is literally how a lot of white Americans define their value, is if I have this external indicator that everyone else can see that says I am worthy. The higher that number on the stock ticker for them, that is the higher their value. And and when that is where your value comes from, you will always look at people who are poor or people who have no money and be like, why are you smiling? And it's just like, because my value does not come from some artificial number on a board that someone else made up. Like, what? That is crazy. But another thing is, when you have the mentality of my value comes from things outside of me, you have the mentality that everyone else has that same mentality. And so so then it becomes a whole lot of projection. It becomes a whole lot of projection of like, I would be insecure if I were in your place, so why aren't you insecure? Like, it's just like, so the projection starts, and it's like, and that makes them mad as well, because they just expect you to think like them, and it's like, absolutely not. Hustle culture is one of the external validation traps. It sure is. And that goes into, y'all don't let me get on my history box. Because the Black Panthers, y'all, they were very anti-capitalism, very communist, pro everyone working.
Stop playing with us. Hey, all that DEI goofiness you talking about, man. Stop playing. Give us our props. Stop messing with our history. The more you erase, the more we replace. I don't get why they so mad at us. Somebody said, why I gotta be Black excellence? Why not? Why not? Why can't I show these young Black kids, girls, and guys a different side Perception is everything. Showing these kids a different perception. How great is that? You know what's crazy? When Barack Obama became president, people were like, policy. I said, oh, whatever. You know what he did for me? He changed my perception. Because when I would travel the world had a certain perception of me as a black man. But when they saw, and if there's any indication that America is not the most incredible country in the world, and he came up in there with that suit, fly, you feel me? I felt good, and everybody felt good because they love what we do. I know y'all out there bullshitting right now.
One thing about me, I'm black and I'm proud, and I'm loud about it. So let's do an OOTD, okay? Hoodie. I love being a black woman. From blackwomensLivesMatter.com. Purse. Protect black people. From Size. Fist up earrings. Yes. Mama Africa earrings. Matching necklaces. My brand, Chantal J. Okay, linked in bio.
I think we should be galvanizing. We should be sharing the codes amongst each other, and we should be supporting each other's businesses.
Racists are the most illogical people on the planet because they live in their own concept of reality and they go around the world projecting that illogicality onto other people. You have created this weird competition in your mind that doesn't even exist, and that's why you think there's going to be a race war. You literally have created this narrative and this standard for people in your own brain that also doesn't even exist. You've created this totem pole where you have put yourself at the top of it, which also doesn't exist. Creating unnecessary competition where there is none is a sign of insecurity. This is why I think that racists are low IQ people, because they're so illogical and there's no logic in hatred.
There's a weird anomaly you get with black Americans which you don't get with other visible minorities. Because they are foundational people. They've been here for so long. If they're not American, then what are they? Andrew Anglin has articles about this from the Daily Storm on white supremacy. He says, if they aren't American, then what are they? Where can we deport them to? Right? So he talks about ethno-states and breaking up in America. But he doesn't hold that same level of, I guess, even compassion or proximity to Indians or Arabs or Chinese people, because they aren't foundational. They're not part of the nation. When I go into a service station, I get the coffee, and there's an Indian or a Chinese guy or an Arab behind the counter, I intuitively just feel more American than them, even though I'm Australian. It's because I'm part of the Anglosphere. You know, I'm closer to an American than I am to an Indian or a Chinese guy. But I wouldn't have that same level of, I guess, foreign alien when I saw a black American, because I know that black American's more American than me. And, you know, third world refugees and immigrants, they know this. And that's why they punch down so heavy. Well, they think they're punching down, but they're not really, because black Americans are godfathered into Americanness the same way that they can only hope to be. But it's not going to happen.
I'll be honest, this is not the take that I was expecting. He's Australian, I guess, and you can't see it from the clip, but in his caption it says ethnic minorities are jealous of black Americans. But let's just be for real, nobody is going to admit to something like that, but this is something that I feel like as ethnic black Americans, we already knew that. It's just interesting to see somebody of his background, if you know what I mean, to actually notice something like that and actually bring it up. Obviously, we're not looking for nobody's validation. We already know that we're foundational. We already know that we're woven into the fabric of this land, which is the reason why I can never understand why so many black Americans have an issue with the word foundational, when literally your lineage is foundational to the nation. But it just goes to show you that we're not the only ones that peep this shit.
White people think the only way to let black people shine is to do nothing, is to literally hold back. The Met Gala so perfectly exemplifies white people's failure to participate because they think that they're going to be centered. Walk with me. So oftentimes, white people will say things like, I'm going to take a step back and let black people shine, as if black people couldn't possibly still hold the spotlight while you participated, because white people's participation is predicated on them being centered. Think about white friends you've had that are like, oh, well, I don't want to invade all black spaces. I don't want to be there. You assume by going to this reggaeton night, by going to this hip hop night, you are going to be centered despite entering a space that is largely black people. You assume that your presence in general would somehow be so central to the experience of others that it would disrupt the blackness in the room. So you opt out. Your idea of being respectful as a white person is essentially hiding your light under a bushel so that other people have the capacity to shine. This is paternalism. This is paternalism to its core. I will take a back seat to graciously, by withdrawing my potential for distraction and centeredness, allow another person to shine. So then just admit it. You think you're better than us, and so you can't participate on an even playing field, because what would happen? You would just outshine us, wouldn't you?
I think the real reason that some white people get upset or like don't understand when they see black people in spaces that they're in, or black people in positions of authority or advancing and things like that, the reason that they relate it to like, well, it must be like you're getting something that you're not qualified for, like it is racism, but there's another underlying part of that. And it really boils down to the fact, like when they see another group of people, whether that be black people or POC, in positions that they feel like, well, no, that's my position. And when they see them, they think that, well, you couldn't have got it any other way besides taking it from somebody and like stealing it. There's no way you actually worked for it, because in their history and present day, they don't have, even within the country itself, standing up the United States, they don't have any like precedent of like existing, like moving up, like building without taking something from somebody, without stealing. Like they have no creativity in their mind. Well, not even creativity, they have no recall and lack the imagination to imagine that being a possibility. So when they see a black person or a POC in spaces and things like that, it's got to be the DEI thing, even though it don't make sense. That's the only thing they have in their brain. It's like the only way you able to make it, the only way I know you make it in this world is by stealing stuff and like, you know, exploiting and like taking things away from people that belong to them. Take things, and that's it. That's all they got. So yeah, it's the racism, of course, but it's also there's another part of that psychologically where they just don't have the recall. There's no precedent set yet, and they refuse. I don't know, to set a precedent where they can, you know, advance, evolve without exploiting or stealing from other people across the globe and right next door. You know, so that's it.
You know, I'll never forget the day a white buddy of mine said black people don't deserve equality because they could never get enough. And that's true. White people are actually scared of equality. That's just how racist we are as a people. And it's not just that one person. White culture in general. Probably I would say most white people, when they hear the word equality, they fear that white people will be oppressed because brown, black, and indigenous people might actually get what's fair and just. That's just how racist we are. We had a black president, and now we've got to have a white supremacist president. That's how scared we are of equality. That's how racist we are as a people. Go to the fucking root. The root of America's problems. The root of the white man and the white woman, their problems, and America and the world. If you think about it, colonialization, white supremacy, the mentality of white people today, not just yesterday, today, right now, the denial, racially, the silence, the apathy, the continuous gaslighting, all that fucking shit, that's ruined us. It's ruined white people, and it's ruining our nation. And whose fault is it? White people's fault. Their inability to fucking fix their goddamn problem. Until we fix white supremacy, everything we try will fail.
The concept of whiteness is social control, right? It is rigidity. The concept of whiteness was sold as privilege, but the price of that privilege was freedom, was joy. They are only allowed to have privilege in a controlled sense. I want you to think about all of these concepts: political correctness, social manners, professionalism, dress codes. Like, all of these things are inherently controlling. Like, none of these things are freedom. None of these things are expressive. White people aren't allowed expression. And this is why black people are like white people's secret obsession and like the bane of their existence. You know what I mean? Because black people refuse to conform, and in that conformity, even though there's so much of a consequence behind refusing to conform, there's also so much joy. There's also so much freedom. And this is why there's so much of black culture that is mimicked, because it represents something that they could never be, which is why they wear our culture like a costume, because It is something that they can only temporarily enjoy. You cannot both remain part of the privileged class in society and rebel against it. Being a privileged member of a Christian colonial society means giving up the right to express yourself. It means accepting that you are a part of a greater system of control. Essentially, being white is a job, right? They are the buffer class between the elites and the oppressed, while simultaneously being a part of the oppressed class themselves. They're like the managers of a restaurant. They hate their job too. They don't make that much money too, but they make more than you. And so they're going to do everything they can to maintain that position, but they're watching you gossip with your coworkers. They're watching you steal food. They're watching you enjoy the aspects of the jobs that they can't, and they resent you for it. But they also enjoy watching you, right? It's the only fun part of the job, but they can't allow you to have too much fun. No, or then the boss is going to hammer down on them. It's not really a privilege to be white. You know, everything that was great about European cultures and societies, pantheons, the worship, the witches, the magic, fairy tales, everything that was great about being white, about being European, was stolen from white people. I mean, colonization was just as brutal for white people. Well, I won't take it that far, but it was terrible, you know? And white people still haven't mourned the loss of everything that they lost.
You know what they don't tell us? That some of the sharpest minds of the civil rights era weren't marching in front of the camera. They were building bridges behind the scenes. They were connecting Black struggles here with independence movements in Africa, exposing America's hypocrisy at the height of the Cold War. Meet Alpheus Hunton. Born in Atlanta in 1903, raised in New York. He wasn't just an academic. He taught English at Howard University. And while other professors stayed safe, Hunton was bold enough to tell his students, "Your freedom is tied to Africa's freedom." He worked with the Council on African American Affairs alongside Paul Robeson and W.E.B. Du Bois, organizations the government tried to smear as communist fronts because they dared to support African liberation movements while Jim Crow was still running this country. He wrote constantly, pushing out pamphlets, reports, essays, laying bare how colonialism abroad and racism at home were two sides of the same coin. In 1941, when the Council on African Affairs was thriving, Hunton became its education director. But by the 1950s, the FBI had him under constant watch. He was jailed for refusing to hand over records. He lost his Howard job. His reputation was trashed. And still, he kept organizing, kept writing, kept teaching Black people that our fight wasn't just about buses and lunch counters. It was global. Hunton eventually left the U.S., working in Ghana and later Zambia, spending his last year supporting African independence on the ground. Think about that. A Black professor, stripped of his career in America, finding refuge in Africa because this country couldn't stomach his truth. So no, the civil rights movement wasn't just about integration. He taught us that the struggle was bigger than borders. And that's exactly why they tried to erase him. Say his name, Alpheus Hunton.
14 years. From 1863 to 1877, look at the progress that Black people made attempting to be free, Blacks made great strides achieving political offices, developing private businesses, even setting up dozens of all-Black towns. In fact, about it, we had built 60 towns. But white terrorists targeted them for destruction. As in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the first bombs that ever fell in America or on American soil fell on Black Wall Street. Y'all remember Black Wall Street in Tulsa?
When I entered high school, I came from a poor background, the kind of student wearing the cheapest shoes in class. During introductions, when I mentioned where I came from, my classmates all came from wealthy families, spoke perfect English, and seemed intellectually superior. Naturally, everyone expected me to finish last in school. But I want to tell you something. Knowing my background, Knowing my parents' struggles, I worked incredibly hard. I became the top student in my class. Everyone was shocked. They couldn't process it. A poor kid from the village in those old shoes finishing first in class? It didn't compute for them. This is exactly what is happening with Black Americans. For centuries, Black Americans were systemically oppressed and stripped of resources necessary for advancement. Since achieving freedom, Black Americans are representing America at the international level. This is the kind of excellence we are discussing. The excellence that shocks people. The excellence that makes them ask, how did you do it? We have seen countless examples of Black American resilience. CEOs of major organizations, Black billionaires, entrepreneurs building Black-owned businesses. They're all standing as monuments to Black excellence. But the problem is that many people cannot process it. When a Black American drives an expensive car, some people ask, why not me? When a young Black American becomes the CEO of a company, some of his white colleagues ask, why him, not me? Some of their white colleagues ask, why them, not me? Fear of losing white privilege that they have enjoyed for many years. Now, let me ask you, where is America heading? If some people believe that they inherently deserve more, that the other communities can only develop if they step aside, that sharing space with Black Americans means domination. If we are being honest, America has a fundamental problem. Let me be clear to y'all palm-colored Americans. Don't step aside to help Black Americans. That is not solidarity. Black people have the competence to compete with everybody. Go ahead and compete with them. They will show you their excellence. Stepping aside is not helping, it is patronizing. And many of y'all Black Americans don't want it. It is time for y'all to understand that every human being is equal to another human being. We must move beyond a culture where some people believe that they are superior because their ancestors have accumulated wealth through exploitation of other people and then passed that wealth to other generations. It is time for y'all to understand that your success is not a proof that you are better. Your wealth is not evidence of the innate superiority. It is the result of history. A history of looting and stealing that we must acknowledge and reject. The history of profiting from unpaid labor of Black people for 400 years. The history of selling slaves, people stolen from Africa for billions of dollars. That is the history that many of y'all have to acknowledge, accept that it happened, accept that your ancestors benefited from it. The reason you're seeing many Black families struggling in America is not because they are lazy, it's not because they didn't work hard, it's because they have only been free for 67 years, while y'all other Americans been free for more than 467 years. Look at the kind of excellence they were able to attain. It speaks volume. Now imagine if they were free for 400 years, what would have they achieved? It's time for y'all to respect Black Americans. It's time for y'all to respect Black excellence. Peace only arrives when people internally accept that they are equal, that what one race can achieve, another one can too, that what Black Americans can achieve, a white person can achieve. That is what I have been praying for, brothers and sisters. That is what the world needs. Unity and freedom. Where people can compete without fear of their skin color or their background. Shout out to all white Americans in those clips for being honest. Many of them have said what is not usually spoken by their community. Now, to my Black American brothers and sisters, your people are excellent. Your people are capable. They were able to achieve a lot. And you've got to do your own research and understand how excellent your people are. I want y'all to start thinking that whatever any other human being can achieve, you can achieve. You've been setting examples for all other people around the world. So don't let any other person lie you that you're not capable, because you are capable. Now, to everyone watching, I want y'all to embrace unity. I want y'all to practice unity. You will see how America will prosper when y'all finally win together. That is my message to my Black American brothers and sisters watching this one. I want y'all to write down there in the comment section, I am a proud Black American. Or you just drop a black fist emoji down there in the comment section. That will show me that you have watched the video until this point. Peace and love to your brothers and sisters. See you next time. Stay healthy, stay united. Mr. TA, your African brother, signing off. Ciao.